it's round 2 of starts and sits this week. Once again, he's going to put that sleeper in there just because it's what he does. So you're going to get us some starts and sits, and we're going to start at the quarterback position, Fabs.
Diabolical?
Diabolical.
And what are you wearing, dude?
Come on now. You haven't been watching the show?
Kirk Cousins. This week, he has scored 20-plus fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games. The Chiefs' defense has given up 15 total touchdowns to quarterbacks overall, and QBs have averaged over 20 points against the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. I'm also starting Jameis Winston. Yes, he can be Jekyll and Hyde, but hey, I like the matchup against Seattle. They've allowed the 5th most passing yards per game since week 5. They've also allowed a top 14 quarterback in 6 of their 8 games, including 3 quarterbacks in the top 10. My sleeper, I agree with Cynthia and Marcus. I think it could be Jimmy Garoppolo. The Cardinals have allowed 20 touchdown passes, and they have just 2 interceptions all season long. Overall, Arizona has allowed the most fantasy points to quarterbacks. So Jimmy G, he could be very useful in Superflex leagues or 2 QB leagues.
Yeah, best start for a San Francisco 49er quarterback since 1990, and Joe Montana. All right, I need some arms to sit because the streak continues. Silky Johnson would love this.
Tell me if you've heard this before.
Oh.
Sit Baker Mayfield. Listen, everybody knows to sit him now. It's just comical at this point. He has not put up the numbers we were hoping back in the preseason, and quarterbacks have thrown for a combined 6 touchdowns and averaged just 10 fantasy points against the Broncos. So Baker, find your spot on the bench or even the waiver wire. I'm also sitting Carson Wentz. He has scored just over 21 fantasy points per game in his last 2 games combined. And the Bears, they've struggled against the run, but QBs have averaged fewer than 14 fantasy points per game against them, and no quarterback has finished higher than 13th against Chicago. So this is a bad matchup for Carson Wentz.
And no quarterback has gone above 20 points against the Chicago Bears and their defensive unit all season long.
They're very
Speaking with the cane.
intimidating, pointing that stick at
That's how they
everybody
do
over
it
here.
in Chicago. All right, let's take a deep breath and gather yourself because there's some tight ends that we're going to need at least 2 of. This is serious here, Fabs. Let's not laugh this off.
It certainly is serious.
Dead serious.
Greg Olsen, let me get my composure here.
Okay.
Greg Olsen is a stardom this week, and I get it. The last few weeks he has just not been good, but he has a great matchup against the Titans. They've given up 4 touchdowns and a combined 4 top 9 fantasy tight ends in their first 8 games. So start the veteran and start TJ Hawkinson. No, you did not mishear me. This is a great matchup against the Raiders. They've allowed 6 touchdowns and the 3rd most fantasy points to tight end. So while the rookie's done really nothing since week 1, this could be the game that he finally is a treat and not a trick.